Want to become a financial advisor, but don't have a finance background? Some of the most successful advisors I interviewed came from engineering, the military, and even teaching. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how they did it. Now, before they share their strategies, here's something shocking I learned during my research. 70% of new financial advisors quit within their first 3 years. And it's not because they didn't master the technical skills or pass the certification exams. Let me explain what I mean. As a financial advisor, you're a professional service provider, just like lawyers, accountants, and dentists. And like these professionals, your success isn't just tied to your expertise. The advisors who make it, who build successful practices and reach top income brackets, they're the ones who figured out how to get and retain clients. Now, money is probably one of the top things on your mind right now, so let's address this. Here's what the latest compensation data says. Financial advisors just starting out earn a median salary of $103,000. Mid-career professionals hit $150,000. Established practitioners reach $225,000. And veterans with 20 plus years of experience are earning $325,000 or more. But here's the catch, and this is why I'm telling you up front. You're looking at 2 to 3 years and nearly $9,000 to get certified as a financial planner. And during that pre-certification period, you're likely making only $50,000 to $70,000, which could be significantly less than what you're making now, especially if you're coming from tech, the corporate world, or other established careers. So if you're making this transition, it should be for one of two reasons, and really ideally both. Either you're genuinely passionate about financial planning and helping people manage their wealth, or you're playing a long game, betting on the potential of building a practice that could generate significant income 10 to 20 years down the road. I'm not telling you all this to discourage you. For the right person, building a financial planning practice can be incredibly rewarding, both personally and financially. But you need to choose this path with eyes wide open, which leads us to the 3 main career paths. Now, the first is the owner-operator. This means building your own book of business, often, though not always, with a eat-what-you-kill compensation model. It's the harder path initially. You'll spend most of your time prospecting and selling. But if you succeed, your income potential is the highest because you own those client relationships, you've created a revenue flywheel, and you're keeping a larger percentage of the fees. The second path is working for an established firm, like a broker-dealer or an independent. Now, they'll be providing you leads and existing clients. So you'll be making less per client, but you're not starting from zero. The trade-off, less ownership and a lower income ceiling, but more stability and support. And the third option is a non-producer support role, typically where you're servicing existing clients. These positions offer far more stability and better work-life balance, but are typically capped out at lower incomes. You're not going to see $300,000 salaries like top producers make. Now, in reality, you're going to move between these paths. Maybe you start out in a support role and then transition into becoming a producer a few years after learning the basics, and eventually you start your own firm, which means whichever path you choose, sales skills matter. Eventually, you're going to need to learn how to authentically have conversations with strangers, understand their dreams and fears, and educate them on how your expertise and your coaching can help them reach their goals faster. And this brings us to an important point about expertise. While there are many ways to enter the financial advice industry, I'm going to focus the rest of this video on becoming a CFP, or a Certified Financial Planner. Here's why. It's increasingly becoming the gold standard for financial planners. While certification isn't required to be a great advisor, the CFP marks demonstrate both broad expertise and a commitment to putting your clients first. As consumers become more educated about financial services, many are specifically seeking out fiduciaries and CFP professionals in particular. But becoming a CFP is not easy. You're looking at 2 to 3 years and almost $9,000. The last thing you want to do is to do all of this and realize it's not the career for you, which is why so many advisors I talk to encourage me to test drive the job before starting out. Do informational interviews, shadow an advisor, do an internship, get a job first before starting the required CFP coursework. In fact, experience is the biggest requirement for CFP certification, and the one I recommend starting out with. So here's what you need to know. There are two paths to experience. The apprenticeship path requires about 4,000 hours or 2 years of full-time work under the direct supervision of a CFP. The standard path requires 6,000 hours, or about 3 years of work, with significantly more flexibility in what counts as experience. Now, if you're currently working outside the industry, I strongly suggest pursuing this apprenticeship path as an associate planner. Yes, it requires a CFP professional to work under, but here's why it's worth it. You'll complete your hours a year faster. You'll learn directly from an experienced professional. It could set you up to become an owner-operator, especially if the CFP you're working with is looking to retire soon. And the mentorship you get will be invaluable for building your career. Now, if you're thinking that these jobs are only for people already in finance, think again. I've talked to many new CFPs who've been able to find apprenticeship jobs despite not starting out in the industry. What matters is your work ethic, your passion for the industry, and smart interview skills. Now, if you can't find an apprenticeship opportunity, don't worry. Under the standard path, you don't need to be a full-time financial planner for experience to count. The CFP board takes a surprisingly broad view of qualifying experience. Any work related to financial planning counts, including direct client work, even if it's only a small portion of your job, support roles like planning and operations, and pro bono work like tax counseling through Vita. If you're interested in standard path roles that don't involve sales pressure, I've made a detailed video walking through 4 real job postings, including their responsibilities and salaries. I'll link it in the description below. Now, timing is critical with either path. You can count experience 10 years before passing and 5 years after passing. Now, this matters particularly if you're in a role where only part of your time qualifies, because you might need more calendar years to accumulate the required hours. So yet another reason you should find a job before diving into the education requirement. And speaking about education, let's talk about what you actually need to learn to become a CFP. First, you must have a bachelor's degree. It does not have to be in finance. I repeat, it does not have to be a finance degree, nor does it have to come from an American institution, though international degrees will need to prove equivalency. More importantly, the board requires all CFP candidates to learn specific topics as part of building a broad base of expertise. You're going to need to learn everything from general principles of financial planning to tax, estate planning, investments. And if you study finance or accounting in college, you might be able to get credit for 1 or 2 of these topics. But chances are pretty good that you're going to need to take the full coursework. There are hundreds of accredited programs you can browse through on the board's website, which I'll link in the description. The major choice you're going to have to make here is whether you want to take courses through a traditional university or through a professional education provider like Kaplan. Now, most candidates I spoke to opted for the speed and convenience of providers like Kaplan, Dalton, and Biff, although some did find it useful to be in person for classes. Now, coursework will run you anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000 depending on the provider you choose. Remember, about a third of CFP candidates get some sort of financial support from their employers. And I've got a whole video breaking down all the costs of certification, how to make smart decisions to reduce the cost, and how to get your employer to reimburse you. I'll also link that in the description. Now, most people quickly transition from education to exam prep mode, registering for the next March, July, or November exam. The CFP exam is a beast. It's 170 questions over 6 hours. There's a 65% pass rate, which means 1 in 3 candidates fail. And that's because this exam is not about memorizing definitions. You'll face complex case studies that test your ability to apply knowledge to client situations. It's no wonder the board recommends 250 hours of studying. Now, I've got a video talking about how you should pick your exam date. Spoiler alert, it's not based on the month with the best pass rate, as well as a review of the 3 major prep providers, Danko, Kaplan, and Dalton. I'll put that playlist. Now, you've passed the exam, hooray. The next thing you're needing to do is fulfill the ethics requirement. CFPs are fiduciaries, meaning they're legally required to put their clients' interests first. This ethics requirement includes completing a professional ethics course, passing a background check, and signing a declaration to uphold the CFP board's standards. Now, after completing all of these E's, experience, education, exam, and ethics, you'll be able to call yourself a CFP professional. But remember, those letters are just the beginning. Whether you choose to join an established firm, work towards buying an existing practice, or starting your own RIA, your success will depend on your ability to build and maintain client relationships and generate revenue. Which means you're going to need to understand the basics of how advisors earn money. That's what I cover in my video about fee models decoded. We go through the basics of fee only, fee-based, AUM, flat fee, and we also look at how real CFPs in a large metro area implement these models. Because you'll be surprised to learn that most successful CFPs aren't using one model. They're using hybrid fee structures to better serve their clients and produce reliable revenue for themselves. Check out that video next. I'll see you in the next one.